Do you swear to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution?
You betcha. Yes, I'm coming back to serve a second term. This time I won the national election. Thanks down south in Georgia, Elon, and Pennsylvania. Lead yet 4 more years to rule in Washington.
Good God, he's coming back to serve a second term.
We were hoping in 24 we'd get a turn. But we lost the vicious battle.
Now they're stuck without a paddle.
Who will save us from conservatism?
All right, guys, at the time you're seeing this, Donald Trump has officially been inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States. And this video is going to be pre-recorded beforehand because we actually plan to be in attendance, and I don't know when I'm going to be back, to actually cover it. So I will say, if anything really significantly crazy happens, if Kamala Harris tries to cash in the Money in the Bank contract like it's WrestleMania, this video is not going to count for that. But we do have a pretty good understanding of what Trump's inauguration speech themes were. Now, this video is a time capsule, so if I was totally wrong, feel free to comment that. But again, kind of just intro thoughts on this, and obviously we got to talk about it. But the first thing I do want to say, as we are currently recording in Washington, D.C., is I want everyone watching this video to take a step back and remember where we all were as a country, and where you were personally as well, on January 20th, 2021. Okay, because I really have been feeling so optimistic this weekend, because I think back to where we were back then versus now, right? And it's very interesting because back in 2016, the right spent the whole 4 years basically celebrating, defeating Hillary Clinton. But this time around, it almost felt normal, did it not? It was like basically about a week later, conservatives moved on. We were already thinking about governing and how we're going to handle this issue and that issue. And it's like, wait a minute, guys, let's all take a step back and realize what the heck just happened. Because I think to where this country was in January of 2021, and I mean this in a very serious sense, things felt completely lost in America. And of course, people will mock that or make fun of that. They'll say, oh, just because your side lost the election, it means, everything is going to be over. It's like, no, I just think of really the social and cultural climate and how much that has shifted over the past 4 years, okay? Which is all to say that the Make America Great Again movement that, ended in Donald Trump's comeback in the election is much bigger than anything political. It is much more than about economics or the price of eggs or something. No, something has deeply changed in America since January of 2021. And if you don't believe me, I mean, you can look at the objective statistics. Obviously, Donald Trump winning the popular vote, which is something that in both of his elections was never even entertained as a possibility necessarily. Or you can take a look at the fact that according to Gallup poll, for the first time in over 20 years, Republicans are actually now the majority party in America. And if you don't want to believe the wider statistics about it, think to your personal life. How many people, and I know because everyone has a story like this, and going into the election, I thought to myself, there is no way we lose under these circumstances. How many people in your personal life were lifelong Democrats? They were big Trump haters in 2016. They voted for Biden in 2020. And over the past 4 years, you saw something fundamentally change about them? Like, I'm serious. Something miraculous has happened. And as we celebrate Trump's inauguration, as we celebrate today, and we do all the, pomp and circumstance and all that, that's not something I think people should lose sight of. It's something I can only attribute to divine providence, right? Like, literally, God is not done with America. That is the only answer to, literally just how much I've seen this country change, both with Trump, but also just in general the past 4 years, that, people really came together. People really came together to unify behind, mostly, I guess you could call them conservative, you could call them common sense ideas, but unite against the left. It truly was something spectacular, okay? And I think for the rest of our lives, we should always remember where we were on November 5th, 2024, where we were today, and also use it as personal inspiration that, yes, anything is possible in this country. The patriots of this country are not finished, etc., because it really is something crazy. Now, with that said, okay, Trump's inauguration, couple early thoughts. First of all, the decision to move it indoors is something that's going to be obviously heavily mocked and ridiculed by the Democrats. They already said this before. We talked about how David Axelrod was saying that Trump is scared of the cold weather. He's a coward. David Axelrod's actual examples, we're not even making this up, of, why Trump is a coward for this is, first of all, JFK did his inauguration outside, which means that Trump therefore must do his inauguration outside because there was cold weather then back in 1961, to which I say, given the circumstances, David Axelrod, I'm not exactly sure that the JFK comparison is the best example. Okay, just saying, right? Because we know how it sort of ended for JFK walking around outside. And obviously, it seems to me from everything we can ascertain, the real reason the inauguration is being moved is not even necessarily because of the weather. It's because of very legitimate security concerns. And as much as, personally, I might be disappointed about it, it's something you have to totally understand and recognize. And also, it's for the safety of the people. But even on the front of the weather, I do have to say, I was there in line yesterday. It is really cold. Okay, it is really cold. Now, if you go outside, it's not that bad right now in DC. And of course, there's going to be someone from Montana or Michigan watching this video like, it's not that cold. But when the Arctic winds start picking up, which they did at the end of yesterday, and the sleet and the snow starts like blowing from the sky, the weather is pretty bad, okay? And objectively, you have to just think about this logically. Someone in that crowd is going to have complications because of it, just based on the weather, right? You're going to have someone with hypothermia, someone with frostbite, and of course, not only what is the media going to say about it, but on top of that, it's not really a great way to even be looking out for the well-being of your supporters necessarily. So, look, it is what it is ultimately. Yes, Trump, you could say, was sort of robbed of a great picture, right? A great spectacle. But guys, can anything beat fight? Can anything beat, Butler, Pennsylvania necessarily? I think Trump probably has a lot of the iconic photos that he needs. So look, Democrats can ultimately seethe about it, but I'm just going to say to people like David Axelrod, comparing the inauguration of JFK to Trump is very lacking in self-awareness, okay? And just okay, we understand that. Now, with that said, it is being reported right now that Trump's inauguration speech is going to focus on 3 major themes. Now, if he tears up the speech and goes in another direction, then I guess we won't be able to account for that. But the first one is unity, the second is strength, and the last one is fairness, right? So those are going to be the themes: unity, strength, and fairness. Let's start by kind of breaking that down. And the first one is, of course, unity. Now, you're going to get some people in the comment section that will say, what's the point of even stressing unity? The left doesn't want to unify with us. Look how freaking evil they are. And, Trump doesn't need unity. He needs retribution, to which I say, I totally understand where people are coming from that. But I do have to say, at the same time, I do think Trump has a very unique opportunity to extend the hand of unity. And it's not an issue of the radical far left is not going to take it, okay? Your average Antifa, or even your average Nancy Pelosi, is not going to listen to that video and be like, I'm going to unify with Trump. But I do think, again, kind of remembering what happened the past 4 years, and an important thing to note here is the way in which Democrats and the far left lost so many supporters. And I would argue a big reason they did is because they became this unwelcoming elite social club, which was essentially, if you're not 100% on our side, if you're not in our little clique, then we reject you, right? We don't know you at all. And I would argue now that conservatives have a 2008 style mandate, both in the politics and the culture, we cannot make those same mistakes, right? We have to, message and understand that bringing people together with agreement is ultimately what builds a strong coalition. And that doesn't mean we have to compromise our values, but that is to say, we're no longer the opposition. We're now the majority party in America. And, I think to a lot of people who maybe didn't vote in this election because they didn't like either candidate, or maybe even voted for Trump, but on a very conditional, skeptical basis. These are not your hardcore MAGA people. These are the genuine undecided voters who went for Trump, doubling down on thanking them essentially and reaching out to them in the inauguration speech is actually, in my opinion, a much healthier way to build a long-term coalition. I think conservatives have to avoid arrogance. We have to not just look at 2024 and assume we have all the votes we need, we have all the people we need, we don't need to keep changing hearts and minds. So unity, in a divided country, I think is honestly very important, and at the very least takes a very strong argument away from Democrats, because now who's being the dividers, right? So that's unity, point number one. Point number two is strength. And I think the message there is obvious, right? This is about mainly a lot of the foreign issues that Biden surrendered in his past 4 years, not because of a lack of hawkishness or neoconservatism, let's get that straight, but because of a lack of strength. He did not come to the table with strength. And because of that, we, instead of having peace through strength, we had war through weakness, right? Whether that's in Ukraine, the Middle East, etc., but also I'd argue on a domestic level, right? He did not have the strength to, for instance, fight crime or secure the border or get, very aggressive even against his own far left base that he was constantly cowering to for, the past 4 years, right? So I think strength on all levels is a good message. It kind of is right in line with Trump, right in line with the conservative Republican image, so nothing is crazy there. But lastly here, guys, the final message that Trump is going to be hammering home is fairness. And what exactly do we mean by fairness? Well, on many different levels, there is a perception in America, a lot by our side, but I would argue you look at this election, it's not just the hardcore conservatives who look at the system and we say it is genuinely unfair. You look at something like affirmative action and DEI and the way that people are not actually being treated fairly. They are not being treated on the content of their merits and their character, but rather like something like skin color, gender affiliation, whatever. That impacts, a lot more people than you would maybe assume really do feel disaffected by that. I think that's a big reason we won the independents, the moderates, the undecided voters in this election, is this perception that the left has lost or maybe arguably never supported the idea of fairness. But DEI is kind of one direction that can go. Another direction it can go, though, is literally just the treatment of Trump, right? The weaponization of the government bureaucracies, not against actual criminals or whatever, but against the other political side. The lawfare, obviously, Trump's infamous criminal trials and the witch hunts against him from the federal government, they were a defining theme of the 2024 election. So bringing that up as well and saying, look, we're going to return to a country where there's equal standards under the law, things are fair. The so-called democratic norms that the Democrats always talk about. Trump is in violation of our norms. Those things are actually going to be respected, not, abused in favor of just it's like performative nonsense where apparently nobody's above the law, but it's okay to pardon Hunter Biden, etc. Like, we're not going to be dealing with that. So yeah, unity, strength, fairness, and all right, day one begins. So, Trump's priorities have to be what? Number one issue he was elected on, the economy. You got to bring prices down. You got to get the economy going for real, right? I would argue the economy basically since COVID and all of our economic prosperity has been fake, right? Despite all of the arguments made about Bidenomics and how the economy is actually really good under Biden. Well, that prosperity was not felt by your average American citizen. So you have to build an economy that actually feels workable, that feels livable to the normal American. And the second issue I'd argue he was elected on was obviously immigration. So that also has to be the second most important priority, right? And it's already been announced mass immigration raids are going to begin on day two. Ending the wars, that's going to be another big one. And the list goes on. There's a lot of more things. Buying Greenland, all right? I'd say that's maybe like a day 5, day 6 agenda move. But yeah, with that said though, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. And I do want to really quickly say thank you to everyone who has supported us through the wild ride that was the 2024 election. And even before then, I know some of you guys have really been here since the beginning. So I appreciate it. It's going to be a great 4 years. We are not going anywhere. So make sure you are subscribed. I don't know if we hit our goal of 400K by the inauguration, but we're close. Okay. I don't know. At the time of watching this, I have no idea. But guys, let's get to 400K, at least by the end of the day. And with that said, all right, see you guys later. God bless and peace.